a lot of what we do is around this theme of building profitable and sustainable agencies. There is nothing like retainers in helping you build a sustainable business. They obviously bring predictability, they help you sleep better at night, and with that predictability allows you to plan longer term, allows you to make decisions with more confidence, and ultimately will lead to more profitability as well.
83% of agencies said they'd like more clients on retainers. Well, of course they would, because the benefits are obvious. Predictable revenue, improved cash flow, better relationships with clients, and stronger forecasting. What's more interesting is that only 46% of these agencies are actually doing anything about it and are actively trying to increase retainers as part of their growth strategy. So before we look at how you might go about doing this, let's look at how the average agency's monthly billing breaks down. Typically, revenue falls into three buckets. 43% comes from pre-agreed retainers, 41% comes from ad hoc projects for existing clients, and 16% comes from new clients. Now that's the average split. The first question for you is simple. Do you know your split? Can you measure it? Many agency leaders assume they can, but when we dig into the detail, it's often less clear. Now, if you're using tools like Xero, tracking codes can give you this visibility instantly. Tag your income properly and you can see at the click of a button exactly how much revenue sits in each category. Awareness is the starting point. Once you know your current position, you can decide what the right mix looks like for you. And when considering this, it's worth considering the very latest bench press findings. Because what we discovered was that the greater proportion of your fee income that is made up of retainers, the higher your gross profit is likely to be. The predictability of retainers allows you to better manage resource and to deliver more efficiently for those clients. However, if it's growth you're after, it appears that having high levels of retainers might be limiting. Adding an incremental amount to monthly recurring revenue isn't having the same impact as those who are winning big projects. An interesting sweet spot might be to have retainers of between 41 and 60% of fee income. This gives you a solid platform of predictable profitability with above average growth. So if you want more retainers, how much more do you actually want? Everything starts with a goal. And some agency owners say, do you know what? I'd love my retainers to cover my overheads. It's a common goal and psychologically it feels great. Imagine starting each month knowing that your core costs are already covered. Anything on top, so new projects or new clients, becomes upside. Now that is a powerful place to be. But it might not be the right target for you. Depending on your structure, your resourcing model, and how much flexibility you want, your ideal mix could look a bit different. So think about the end game. Where do you ultimately want to land? And then, more importantly, what's the next step? If you currently have no retainers, jumping straight to 70% might feel overwhelming. So what's the first milestone? Is it your first retained client? Perhaps it's 5 clients on retainers, or $5,000 a month, or $10,000 a month. What is realistic but stretching for you? Set a clear target, make it tangible, and then go after it. And also, have a bit of fun with it. Involve your whole team in making this happen. Once you decide where you're heading, everything becomes much more intentional.
It's really important that we start the conversation about this early. We start the conversation internally around the importance of retainers, and we start the conversation with our clients early. This won't happen by accident, right? Retainers won't just magically happen. We're very used to working, or agencies are traditionally used to working in an ad hoc project way. And unless you are conscious about moving your clients onto a retainer model, then it won't just happen. So it's really important that you start the conversation early, before or as part of the sales process, right? If you are selling ad hoc projects and then you are attempting to convert clients to retainers afterwards, That's actually really tricky. That's hard to do because you're getting clients used to working in a particular way. And then you're having to flip that and say to them, right, we don't want you to work that way. We'd like you to work this way. It's really important that you start that conversation early and you say to them, look, this is how we work. And you talk about the importance of retainers, the value of retainers. And I guess a challenge that I have for you is if you're starting that conversation early and say, this is how we work, could you only work on retainers? You know, if you're really serious about this, the reason I mention this is one is to really challenge you about this and get you thinking. But I know agencies that when they've sat down and thought about this, they said, you know what, that we really don't want to work on the project by project basis. We want to work on retainers. They're better for us for all sorts of reasons. And so we're going to say right at the outset that we'll only work with you if you work with us on a retainer. We'll do an initial piece of project work. And then off the back of that, there will be this ongoing retainer element as well. And, you know, I've told this story before, but I remember chatting to a client of ours years ago. They did two parts of the business, SEO and design and build. And when they found out just how, well, the SEO, they basically did some profitability analysis. The SEO business was where they made all their money. Design and build barely broke even. And once they worked this out, they never took on a web build again, unless there was a contract already in place for the SEO retainer. And I just thought that was really interesting. Once they saw the stats around what just doing design and build was doing for their business profitability wise, they made a decision that they would literally only ever work for clients on retainers. And I wonder how far you could take that approach. Now, language is really important here. I've talked a lot about retainers, but from now on, I'm going to suggest we use that word a lot less. And here's why. Retainers is all about us. It's not about the client. It's not seeing things from the client's point of view. And actually, just think about the language. Retained, it implies in somehow being constrained, held to us. And that's not necessarily the relationship that a client might want to have. So let's think about the connotations of the words retainers. And there is an alternative viewpoint to this. How about we think about program of work? Because a program of work allows us to have different sorts of conversations with clients. It allows us to have elevated conversations around their objectives, around what they're trying to achieve, and moves away from them feeling like they are retained or obligated to us. It actually works more in a collaborative partnership. And it's also important that we focus on the benefits of working in this way with clients. And there are a number. So we know the benefits for us, but benefits for the clients are really important, that we continuously remind them of this. So if we are working on these programs of work, allows us to do better planning, because we're not working on this ad hoc basis where you phone us up and say, can you do this? And we have to scramble around. And whenever you do better planning, you will get better results. Allows us to have a more strategic approach. Rather than just having our head down in the project, we can lift our heads up and say, well, what are you trying to achieve over the next 12, 18 months? Let's elevate ourselves up and have those more strategic conversations. And you can also add value. If you know you're going to be working with someone for a long period of time, you can drop in elements that add value to that relationship, that are really highly valued, that bring you closer together, that generate more opportunities for additional work, by the way, but which clients really, really value. You can do those little bit of extras that perhaps you don't get the opportunity to do when you're just working project to project, that bring you closer together. And also, clients get prioritized resource. So when you work together through these programs of work, you are able to plan your resource better and ensure that when the client needs it for their projects, that it's available. So those are the key benefits. And I think we know the benefits for us, but let's make sure that we're communicating the benefits for our clients. Now, there is a fifth benefit for our clients, but it's in brackets. And the reason that it's in brackets is because it's rates. And I'd much rather we focused on the other four benefits of retainers before we had to reduce our rates. You'll know if you listened to my webinars before, I'm a big fan of not discounting, absolutely not discounting without getting something in return. because that's where margin is eroded, and it's eroded far too easily. The stats from this year's bench press were shocking at the amount that agencies are willing to discount without getting anything in return. So I would use this as an absolute last resort. But just to be clear, you are getting something in return here, because having a client or retainer that pays regularly is of value. It's unquestionably of value to you, and it is worth, if pushed, I would say a reduction in rates, but I certainly wouldn't lead with it. It would be the fifth thing that you mentioned, and only if you really, really had to. And by the way, the key to that, I said it was getting something in return. The key to getting something in return, retainers, is not just that you can bill them each month, it's that you get paid each month without hassle. I remember a client chatting to a client, he had a 20 grand a month retainer. It used to stress him out because they would not pay invoices on time. He'd often have 4 months invoices backing up. This wasn't a large business. I think they were £600,000-700,000 at the time, and this client, you can do the maths, represented a significant chunk of that revenue, and therefore a lot of his cash was being tied up in this client. He had staff to pay, and when he was owed 80 grand, but they still had this program of work to do, he was put in awkward situations. So look, favorable rates only comes when clients pay their invoices on time, and maybe even this is an opportunity to look at moving to direct debit. I know one of the case studies that Tom's sharing later is a really interesting example of how an agency was able to move their clients onto direct debit and completely take the hassle out of that payments process. So focus on benefits, think about language, and then we're coming on to how do you create your retainers. Now, those of you who already have retainers, what I'd encourage you to think about is what's the next level for you? I'm going to share some thinking that might be interesting, that might challenge you on how you put your retainers together. If you don't have retainers or have done this loosely over the years, this is a really good opportunity for you to think about and solidify exactly what goes into your retainers and how you can make them as profitable as possible. Because here's the thing, a lot of people think that retainers are less profitable than project work. Well, they're only less profitable if you let them be less profitable. It is up to you what you put in retainers. It's up to you how profitable they are and how tightly you monitor them and how freely you let clients get away with scope creep. So retainers can be profitable and unprofitable, just as projects can be profitable and unprofitable, right? So it's up to us to make sure that we're tight on both, by the way, that we are tightly scoping our retainers and our projects and ensuring that they are adding value and delivering profitability for our business. That's kind of a given. But we have two choices when we're creating retainers broadly. Do we go down the packaged approach or do we go down the bespoke approach? So for some people listening to this, you will be able to put it, traditionally into 3 packages, ABC, your services, and make it really easy for people to buy from you. So package A consists of these 5 things. Package B consists of, might be the same 5 things, but more of them, or it might be, 10 things and so on. Package C consists of, is maybe your top level package. And going down this route makes it really easy for people to buy from you and really easy for your team to sell. And that shouldn't be underestimated, because if you're making it easy for your account managers and directors and anyone within your team to be able to upgrade clients to one of these packages, that's a really good place to be. It does, however, move you slightly towards the more commoditized end of the market. So you are trading this off a little bit. You're trading off the ease of buying and selling these packages, which shouldn't be underestimated. That's a really good place to be, with the fact that they're buying a commodity, a package. Now, the alternative approach to that is to go down the bespoke route. And for many of you listening to this, you won't be able to put what you do into packages. You'll just be scratching your head thinking, well, that's just too complicated. All our clients are so different. Our projects are so different. We've got no chance. But what you do have an opportunity to do is talk to your clients about these programs of work and say to them, look, what are your plans for the next 12, 18 months? How can we put these packages together? And I'm going to take you through a few questions later on that will show you how to put together these bespoke program of works. But let's just look at packages for now, because the traditional way of doing this is you know, £2,000 a month, £4,000 a month, £6,000 a month, something like that. That's what I see a lot with agencies. But actually, a smarter way to do that is just change the top point and make sure you anchor high with your top package. That gives you the opportunity to move your middle package up. It's then perceived as more attractive, and actually you can generate extra profit. Now, again, those of you who've heard my webinars in the past will heard me talk about this in more detail, but I still can't talk about it in enough detail as the guy that wrote this book. So Pricing Creativity by Blair Enns. It's a book I talk about all the time. We shared a link in the chat. We're about to. The reason I talk about it is it's just really, really, really good. I know so many agencies that have read it, implemented what it talks about, and it has changed their business. So I hope I can give you that gift by you being able to do the same. But read that book. It will talk in detail about how you can specifically package those or price those packages. But I guess the overriding principle I just want to share with you today in the short time that we have is just avoid that, 246. Make sure that you anchor high and think about exactly what goes into the packages to make sure that they're all profitable. So more advice in that book. Now, with your existing clients, if you are in a situation where you're sat there thinking, well, hang on, I can't put it into packages, or I wouldn't know where to start, a wonderful opportunity you have is all your existing clients. Maybe these are used to working with ad hoc projects. Maybe you're sat there thinking, how on earth would I convert these guys into retainers? Well, I can show you how. Here's what you need to do. Go to them and ask for their advice, right? This is really important. And of course, clients are going to be willing to help you. They're going to be willing to engage in collaborative conversation. You say to them, look, we're thinking about putting together these programs of work for clients, because what we've noticed, and again, this is an opportunity to explain the benefits. What we've noticed is when we work on ad hoc projects, occasionally things are rushed. They come last minute. We haven't necessarily got the resource. We don't have the full picture because we haven't got the full strategic view. And we think there's a better way of working. We think that actually by working on programs of work with you, having visibility over the next 12 and 18 months will deliver you much more value. It's obvious, better planning, equals better results. It gives you prioritized resource. We know what's coming up and when it's coming, roughly, and that gives you prioritized resource in the studio. It gives us the opportunity to add additional value to what you do. So these are the reasons that we're doing it. And what I'd like to ask you is, how would you like to work on these program of works? If we were to work together over the next 12 months, what might that look like? What would be useful to you? What would be valuable to you? How much predictability do you have around the projects? Questions like, well, what are your plans for the next 12 months? I mean, by the way, retainers or not, we should be asking our clients this question all the time. We need to deeply understand what is going on with them strategically in order for us to be able to deliver on that. Because if we're just working at the lower level, then we're not going to have the opportunity to tap in some of that strategic thought. So what are your plans for the next 12 months? What's coming up? And you can suggest ideas to them. This is a great opportunity to pitch ideas. Well, we worked with this client on this project. Is that something you might be interested in? But what you're doing is you're looking to help create in their minds an idea of what this might look like and the benefits of this. So you say to them, well, if we were to create a package for you, what might that look like in the next 12 months? And what sort of price would you want to pay for that? And start having those conversations. And you can almost start using your clients to help you create your packages rather than guessing. You can sit down for hours and plan what goes into your packages and then have to present it to them. But a much better way of doing it, trust me, by a long shot, is go to them and say, what would you want to see in our packages? What would be useful to you? What's the value? And then how much would you be willing to pay for it? There's your market research. And then if your clients are helping you create your packages that they really want to buy, well, then they're just going to buy them. It's that simple. So questions like what would be really valuable to you will help you become a strategic partner. And this elevates you away from the agency that I use to do this thing, to do that project, to the agencies I go to help me achieve my strategic objectives. Completely different place to be. And it's surprisingly easy to get to. I remember having a conversation with a client of ours a few years ago, video production agency, really good agency. They were 1.2 million turnover, did some great projects. Look at their show reel and you think, wow, these guys have got it nailed. They were profitable. They were in a really good place, but they worked project by project, and they didn't want to. They wanted to become this strategic partner. So they spent, and it was only a short amount of time actually doing it. I remember chatting to them afterwards, and they said they've made massive steps forward in this area. And I said, well, what did you do differently? They said, instead of running events talking about video content, they ran events talking about content strategy. Instead of putting out articles and white papers and reports and sending out emails and blogs just on, video production, they started talking about content strategy. Everything was around strategy. And suddenly they started to become known for their strategic thought. And clients were coming to them having strategy sessions. And, oh, by the way, that was something they added into their offer, and they added a strategic thought piece that clients could buy. And suddenly they were having conversations around content strategies for the next 18 months, 2 years, of which video was part of, rather than just being right at the end of that conveyor belt, the guys that get given the video project. Well, if it's not you, it'll be someone else, and you're going to have to pitch, and we're going to decide based on price. Suddenly they were involved in much higher level conversations. So I guess the question for you, when you look at your website, when you look at how clients perceive you, are you positioning yourself right now as being a strategic partner? Or are you positioning yourself as someone who just does the project work? Because if you are positioning yourself, and therefore you'll be perceived as someone who just does the project work, well, that's what you're going to get. And that's okay. I know plenty of agencies that do perfectly fine at that. However, there is a whole different world to unlock, a whole different world of, to be frank, profitability, if you can elevate yourself up and start having those more strategic conversations, because it will result in more strategic long-term programs of work. Now, I'm going to go in a second to chat about some case studies. But before we do, I just wanted to talk a little bit about these things. So far we've talked about how to get more clients and retainers. So we just to summarize, you've got to set a target for this, right? You've got to be conscious about this. This will not happen by accident. And the second thing that you need to do is you need to decide whether you're going down the package route or the bespoke route. So that needs to gain a conscious decision. Whichever you choose, you should go to your existing clients and ask them for opinions on what they would want to see in either of those two options. And then once you have that, you have a chance to be able to have those conversations with clients. And particularly if you're going down the package route, you can talk about this with your team, incentivize your team to upgrade clients from package A to package B, to even get them onto a program of work or retainer in the first place. So those are all of the things that will help. Now, I talked earlier around how retainers need to be just as profitable as projects, and you can have bad projects or unprofitable projects and unprofitable retainers. Scope creep will still exist in retainers. And in fact, in many ways, it can be a bigger challenge because you feel that you have this obligation to deliver and you have this monthly commitment. It's ever so easy. And the client feels that as well, by the way. They feel like, well, we're paying you monthly, so therefore we're going to maybe potentially push the boundaries a little bit. So scope creep is very real in retainers, and it's very important that when you're scoping your either your packages or your the bespoke program of works, that you're very, very clear about what is included and crucially what's not, right? And I think everyone listening to this, I'm sure, is good at scoping and will say, well, look, included in package A are these things, right? What's equally as important to do is to say, well, look, here are some of the things that might occasionally crop up for you that are not included. Just to be really explicit, the following things are not included. And if they crop up, here's how we should handle them. In fact, you'll know I'm a big fan of having the conversation up front. Right, look, in the course of our retainer, there's going to be little things that crop up. How do you want to handle those situations where it goes outside of scope? What's the sign-off process? Who has the authority to sign it off? What's the process? How will we bill for it? And here are some of the things that might crop up. And you could even put together pricing on it. I know some agencies are just, we'll just say, look, here's the flat rate. We'll bill you at the end of the month. We'll let you know when we're starting to go over, and we'll bill you at the end of the month. Whatever works for you, you need to find a way of ensuring that retainers don't become I guess a ball and chain around your business where suddenly you have this obligation. Because here's the thing about retainer creep, at least with project scope creep, when the project ends, it's done. We've all had those projects where we go, oh my God, that was a nightmare, but at least it's done. Now, if you've got an unprofitable retainer and it's creeping, you'll get to a point where it just will creep, and suddenly 12 months down the line, 18 months down the line, it's double what it was in the first month. You're delivering double the work for the same price. And it didn't happen overnight. It just creeps. So you've got to be really careful, because these things are never ending. So scope creep is more important than ever. And so are reviews. It's really important that you sit down and formally review your relationship and the program of work with your clients regularly. And how often that is, I guess, depends on the rate of change within your client, what's going on, the number of projects and pieces of work that you're working on. But certainly to have, you could argue 12 months is too long a period of wait. Maybe 6 months, 3 months would be a period of time to actually sit down and formally review. And again, don't fall into this trap of thinking, well, we're getting together monthly to go through our sessions, that's a review. No, it's not. That's a conversation about the work you're doing. This is a review of, at a higher level, how are we performing? How's our relationship? What's going well? What's not going well? Let's have a look at the profitability of this. Let's look at what's coming up. Is this package that we're on, this program of work that we're on, the right one for you, given what's coming up? And also, these conversations are wonderful opportunities for upselling, moving people up to the next package, adding additional elements in. That's why these reviews are important. Now, the other thing about retainers is you've just got to be careful. If you've got clients who've been on the same retainer for 2 or 3 years, even if they haven't got, there hasn't been any scope creep, there's the danger that all of your costs have gone up, and if your prices haven't, then you're going to get your margin squeezed. And so, again, as part of these reviews, it's important that you have those conversations about increasing prices. It's important that you set those expectations at the outset. I know a number of agencies that simply say, both verbally and in their contract, prices will increase at the rate of inflation each year on this date, and then up they go. There's no questions asked. It just happens. So have a think about how you want to handle these things, but handle them you will have to. Retainers, just getting clients on retainers is not going to be the holy grail to profitable and sustainable, right? We still need to do the basics. We still need to ensure that things are properly scoped and we handle the creep. We still need to make sure that we're having reviews and having high level conversations. We're seeking upselling opportunities and we're increasing our prices. Those things go without saying.